Today's video topic is about interdimensional beings, and them interdimensional beings, interdimensional, which means inter, within, internalized, okay? So they are not exterior, because that's an illusion, and relative to illusion. So these interdimensional beings are of many variations, okay? It's multiplicit, implicit in a multi-way. See how these words do things? But when you say multiplicity, that's usually associated with somewhere out there, out of space somewhere. No, not at all. Excuse me for my lack of enthusiasm in the videos, by the way. This is just my personality. And I know we're supposed to have a caricature of ourselves, exaggerate our personalities for the camera. But I just feel it's really corny when I do it, and very just contrived. And it's just not how I'd speak. If you was in front of me, this is how I'd speak. Because it's from the heart, and the heart doesn't work on exceeding or the opposite to that. It's centered, okay? So it finds its nucleus and it speaks with that authenticity. This is my authenticity. Anyways, so yeah, multidimensional beings. These beings, in a Quranic sense, the Quran, gotta get pronunciation right, because people get offended. And that's something I'm going to mention later on in the video about religion as well. Inclusive to what I'm talking about, because the beings in there are called jinn, and there's angels. But it's not that simple. And many people who interpret these scriptural influences are still in the abode of the ego. So it will get interpreted within accordance of that resonance. So it will be fractured. And then that fractured sense will mirror the outside. And it will solidify the outside, make it to be grounded, not to liberate. So the first thing, they call them jinn, okay? Jinn is also synonymous with genie and all this other thing. Genie. Ask what you want, you can get materially, on a material basis. Well, you see, it's synonymous with genie, and what's genie? Also synonymous with your own ego. So this is a lower dimensional reality. This is of a more dense vibration, not as prolific, which means not as advantageous to humanity's benefit. It's not helping humanity in any way. It's actually detrimenting you, self-induced and imposed, because everything is. And then that has a ricochet effect. And if people don't know how to have that divine fortitude through their own emanation of the heart, and for that to confirm their existence, not someone outside of them, it can also damage them too. So all these things not prolific at all for humanity. And these beings, the jinn, are lower dimensional beings. But the bottom, even if you look in geometry, it's a 360, okay? So it's reciprocal. So to know the bottom, also the top, as above, so below. And that's on a micro level and a macro. Sub-realities within realities. And this physical plane is very interesting because we have forgotten ourselves, the true core. And our ego corresponds to this realm. Because implicit in the realm is a dual suggestive. And duals divide, and divide is resistance, which is frictional. But it does that doesn't mean it's not an actuality, because the actuality is the heart. It just means the phase wave that it's experiencing is dual. It's of a dual impression, expression, impressed to be expressed. So whatever's felt within will mirror itself as a mirage, not an actuality. So these jinn are of that domain, of that dimensional density, and they are correspondent to fire element. They call them smokeless fire in the Quran. In Islam, smokeless fire. Okay. And these beings are a sliver away from our perception. But even if it's a 0.2 point of a decibel of a variating change of frequency, you're not going to see. You can't see particles of light photons, but it's illuminating everything. So these jinn are in a curtain of our perception, a thin sliver. But if you attune your vibration, you can actually be perceptible to it. What's the word? A reciprocal to it. You will receive that light of that dimensionality, which will illumine that density. Illuminate. Density doesn't always mean heavy. It just means a certain vibration. That's all it means. And so you'll be able to access it, and more people will soon. There's a lot of activity in this room going on. I don't know if you're noticing it on the camera or picking it up, but they know that they're being talked about, or it's being talked about, but it's all a part of you too. You see, these beings are inclusive to you. To exclude them would mean your resonance is in accordance with duality. So you're giving them power over you. So then you're then subjugated to that power that you're exteriorizing. Anything that's objectified, is if it's not inclusive to you, induces a frictional response because you're not accepting it's you too. And this is what I mean about all these dimensionalities in these beings. Every one of them is the variations of you expressing itself as you on a different plane. We are a planetary system, condensed. It's a con on a density. Okay? And it's Quakery. It's an illusion. It's veiling something over the actuality, what is. Because you solidify yourself in accordance with the realm you're perceiving and the light frequency of the spectrum, which is finite. And so means that whatever you can't see, you don't think is. But this is the game. All of it is hiding in you. In occultism, occult is what? To occlude, block, have an impediment on the true actuality of the conduit, which is a zero, a hole. But they are blocking that. Occultism means hidden. Their operation is hidden, covert, but it's blocking it subconsciously in us, so our reflex become our reflexes become in accordance with that, blocked and occluded, no flow, because it's filling the zero, which is a 360. The origin of our being is being filled with something else, which the occult contribute to, which means hidden, blocking your true self from expressing itself as this whole realm and the multiplicity dimensionalities that you're all an expression of. But the jinn that they call them in the Quran, I'm just going to call them jinn so you know what them ones are. They correspond to your ego, okay? So we've said that, but let's reiterate it. And they're to show you what you're not. So the effects that they induce, that can be very inimical effects, because it's not in accordance with the soul, sun, all cognates, which mean they're related, of the same essence and word, soul of man, soul of man. He could control the jinn. He had a ring like this that the sheikhs were spiritual masters of Islam, because this reality is a deep. And the soul of man, the son of man, the illuminator, one of the illuminators, illumined things. So it was too inundating for the jinn to have a grasp on your ego, because it was being inundated by this permeation of light that traversed, so nothing could hang on, like a river. The sun illuminates all that scene. The scene is the essence of you and more. So all these things are encoded, and they're all encryptions to re-elicit out of themselves. In the encryption implies the lesson, implies the truth, and that's how religion should be perceived, especially Islam. But most of it's not. But the way of the Sufis, that is the true way, the heart way. So yeah, what was the topic? So the jinn are supposed to show you what you're not. They exemplify what the prophets don't. Prophet means prophetic light, so it's of a higher dimensionality of, what's the word, effulgence, divine emanation. But how would you know one without the other? How would you know one without the other? This is a game here in this plane, and it's in an ordinance of divinity. And we don't know one without the other. So we had to fall to know what the rise is. Also, what would be the game? What would be our being to be here? Why would the collective soul take residence in such a plane if it already knew itself? It's hiding. God is you, hiding in you. Occultism. We are an effect of that, of all that. The whole edifice of the economy is built on that. And if you mess with the words economy, income, income for them, for something outside of you, your income is from their economy, which is theirs. So it's feeding them, it's an income for them. But it has reversed it, said this is your income, so this is your sustenance. So we've exteriorized our worth, and it's become an outside attribute through this occultist thing, which is hidden. But the conscious knows, the subconscious picks it up, and it suggests to the subconscious through symbology that it should be subdued. And then it enables that to work. But it's a whole game. You didn't have to respond to it, but we have, and that's why we're in this position right now. And the lower dimensional beings, that are the jinn, are relative to that, what I've just mentioned about the economy. They crave validity and competence over what we and they didn't create. And I'm saying in terms of duality now, we, it's all one thing. It's a phase wave. And their correspondent element is fire. And fire, if you look at the fire, how that behaves, what does it do? It destructs, deconstructs. It's not constructive. So it divides, and it creates a subweb of division, which is duality. And if there's two things rubbing, what is it? It's friction, it's fire. And our propensities, which means behavioral patterns like rapaciousness and insatiable appetites from the ego, derived from the ego, which is never quenchable, can never be quenched because it doesn't generate. So there's no sufficient quality to it. It's not qualitative on a sufficient basis. So it will always want more. So them beings correspond to that. And they're to teach you that that's not what you are. But we get trapped in it. It's a trap. And we're caught. But you're your own captive. So that's just a little bit about that. But there's many. I don't just make these things up. I don't just concoct these things through fantasization and fixations. These come to me when I'm not trying to think, because then I'd get in my own way. Who am I? What am I? I'm me, and you are the doing of it all. It's expressing itself as an effect of itself on a plane it's chosen to be, to reflect and extract experience. But it doesn't mean it means anything. See, we try and extract meaning and force meaning of it. It was all just a game. A game's. It's not an arbitrary endeavor. There is justice to it, and the justice is the fact that it's game. It's a game and it's not personal. That's the reason to it. To illuminate more of the soul while you're here. Because when you illuminate the soul in this realm, because it's a contrast and a dual effect, it seems even more mighty. And the effulgence of it is much more potent and radiant because of the contrast. This is the game here. You're right where you need to be. If you wasn't, you wouldn't be in this experience. So that is also an interpretation of what the scriptures should be. But anyways, so the other multidimensional beings are you on another plane, and a plane actually means planet, and a planet is a plane net. It's a net within the construct of what you're condensed into on Earth, which is playing this game, enables it to be. And there is planets that come down, and they are all different plane wavelengths that we're in effect of, right? This one's Earth. So when I was, like I said, when I come up with this stuff, I don't just make it up. I mostly get it when I'm having a meditative state, very deep though, and it takes at least half an hour to get in a deep meditative state. It doesn't just come of itself. You don't think yourself into being. So when you're meditating, the cause of that is to recede from everything. Then it's observant. But there is not even an observer. You're just doing it. Then it comes to you like a river. Then it's reciprocated. So this is what meditation is. So then it comes to me, these things. Or when I'm in nature, near a river, because river's fluidity, reciprocation, letting everything flow with that. And a rock's like a thought, because a thought is a thing. But the thing is also inclusive to what the river is, for the river to even be that. But the river doesn't cling, it goes around the rock. And that's what your thoughts should do. So when this state is induced, these things come now. Okay, they have time to reverberate to me from my heart. The heart is the nucleus in which it's emanating, which corresponds to the sun, which is illuminating. And also in the Quran and religion, Prophet Muhammad, which they are revered to, is like an archetypical expression of the sun, which is illuminating. And I say archetype because we're not even what we think we are. To be human is a thought. We only see a delineation like this, an outline. It's an illusion. It's what it's all doing. So what I got, the information, is if we can perceive ourselves as a solidified delineation outside of us, then the same goes for another plane, another planet. But you just have a different frequency on that plane. But it's all communicative, not incommunicable. It speaks in a different tongue, not this one, which is subject to this reality. And the dual suggestion. All words are derivatives, which means to half, the whole. The heart knows, which is omniscience, atonement, at one. We all know this by now. These words are codes, and they have lexicograms within the word spoken too, which means a word within a word. So they're very multifaceted. It's not one word just doesn't mean one meaning, and it's got us trapped. So this is another thing that's relative to this dimensionality and what the jinn correspond to also as well. The language we speak. So yeah, these things just come to me. I don't make them up. Never do I make them up. So this feeling came that there's different you on different realms of all of us. It's experiencing itself. And you can actually exploit different versions of you on them realms to get a perception of what might be here. But the sun is where it all is, because it's illuminating it all. And that's what we should aim for directly here. Most philosophers are on one dimensionality, and they call it the thought plane. They've become very adept at that plane, and they're good at coming up with ideas to neutralize things, and to work it out like a puzzle, and to decrypt it. They're very good at that. It's the plane of the mind. But it proliferates, which means creates more of ideas derived from ideas. But these ideas are just better than the original ideas. So they can actually negate ideas that don't already work. Philosophers do this very well. But because they're exploiting different versions of themselves on these dimensional planes, or different vibrations, But the true way is the heart. And that's Sufism, Buddhism, all them things, different names, different veils for the same thing. And this is the nucleus, where it all comes from. The spiral, the Fibonacci, all the planets are creating that effect. But if you go to its source, the reason why they are fashioned by the effect of the source that's happening, all here. If you get to the source, you've reached it. And then there's no reason to create more ideas, proliferate more ideas. It elapses itself more into a state of fluidity in which its origin is from. And then we act in accordance with the heart then. And then everything can operate on that basis. And I think that what we have a tendency to do if we're not in this space through religion and things like this, we have a proclivity, which has become a reflex tendency, to objectify everything we see in the scriptures and things like this and stories. And they become fairy tale. They become more of a not transcendental anymore, to transcend these things. There's an idea of what that is. So what we do is we embellish, which means to veil over something, an idea of what that could be, in accordance with the words we're saying it in our head. I need a drink. So the notions in association with the word then gets objectified. So this Jesus thing is being absolutely, I've been inundated by it by many different people. And when they talk about it, it's with such zealousness, it's exceeding the passion of it. And they're in my face, and it's like they want to be right. They want to be right. Crave being right. What does this mean? It's for you. It's for your validity of your sense of what that is, not for the whole collective. So it means you want credibility. You don't want to liberate somebody to then have a sense of liberation within you. It's all twisted. So yeah, so this is religion. This is modern day religion. It's not working for anybody. It's being capitalized on by capitalism, by the government. So it just becomes an effect of that, not of the heart, but by being exploitative, suggesting things to you. But for all these personas, persona means to wear a mask. I don't know if I said it in another video, but it's to wear a mask, which is masqueraded, which is facade. So everything's based on the fractured version of what it is to make you feel valid by your existence. There must be a Jesus Christ, Holy Spirit. That's why are we here? There is no reason for why we're here. It's of itself so. It's of itself, like they say in Islam, kum fayakum, which means to be of itself so, like the river flows. You're the doer of that. No, sorry. There's a doing, but you're the being of it. Each bit of your life, you're the being of what that is. No one has volition over it. It's a collective, whole, inclusive volition, which means it's governing itself. And you know what's right by knowing what's wrong. That's implicit in this realm. And people say, no, implicit in us is to not sin. Okay, what is sin? Sin is to have a detriment to you. I've already said this in this video in a different way. Sin is to have a detriment on you. If you do something that's not conducive to your well-being, that's an act of a sin. But you have to know that eventually, that sin, to know what's not. So then it has a dichotomy and it shows you what could be. Then you find a middle ground where things are balanced. So sometimes you might still fall into having a detriment on yourself, but now you know that that's not where it is. The source is not there. It's not sufficient. So when you relapse into drug taking, alcoholism, not being in state sobriety, for an example, you have to do that to know what it's not. It's a part of this plane. And then that's where it can liberate you from that. And religion's supposed to be that, to recalibrate with what is the source, the sun, Solomon, soul of man, son of man, all these prophets, prophetic light, all illumined states. But the game is to not know them, to then eventually come back to that. See, everything is all heavily illusion based, heavily. And we're all going through it. It's okay to not be on a clean path, because you eventually will. And then when you eventually are, the feeling will be so liberating, and the sense of that will be so rewarding because of what you've experienced of that not to be. That's how the game works. There's these oscillations. But when you have a thought of what it is, a thought becomes an accusative, externalized sense of something outside of you, not a part of what it's all doing. So forgive yourselves. And these thoughts that these thoughts that we do get are in relation and relative to fire, which is the jinn, which is what we've embellished a name over, the jinn, them beings. Them beings are of that fire element and can induce that precipitation in your neural network and your synapses. And spiritual practices help to reduce that, attenuate that, so it opens up the veil and to what you actually are. So don't take it personal when you get a thought, because when we try to make amends with ourselves and subdue the thought, it will just create more of it, because it's coming from the same field of vibration. And that's the trick of the mind too. It's just a trick. So don't do this. I want to make something of YouTube. I want to keep doing more videos. I'll try and get a better quality camera if I get more views, and I'll do it for the viewers. I have got out of habitualizing videos, so I have not done a video for at least 5 months. I think it's been a while. But I want to keep making more again and making a habit of it, because information's coming in. Within them months, I've had so much information be evoked or invoked, because it's already what you are. All these deveilings I want to put on YouTube, and for you people to help alleviate anything you may be going through, because I've been through the worst, trust me. I don't want to talk about that, but one day I may make a video of that in order for you to reflect on. Maybe some interesting stories. I also have a lot of psychedelic experiences. I don't include it always because it's not the path to take. But anyways, that's it for now. You're not obligated to like or share any of this. Do what you want to do. Okay, thank you.